Shove It Man! Today on the Shove It Show.
Abyss is having a domestic with his missus. He calls Sheamus a human jar of mayonnaise. Hulk Hogan can take no more of this. Everyone just runs away from the almighty Hulkster. Vince takes partial responsibility for the actions of the Nexus, further diluting this angle. Alright, it's the Hawk. After the WWE mopped the floor with TNA Impact in the 2010 War, TNA tucked their tail between their legs and moved back to Thursdays. But in the Hawk's opinion, it shouldn't have been quite so one-sided, as WWE was mostly on autopilot and a lot of the guest host stuff was watering down the shows. I recently reviewed both the TNA Slammiversary 2010 show, which I described as a dead show, which wouldn't steal any WWE viewers, and I reviewed Fatal 4-Way, which was a middle-of-the-road kind of show. Now that the pay-per-views are out the way, we can get back to our side-by-side comparison of TNA and Raw from 2010. This is TNA Impact from the 17th of June and Raw from the 21st of June. Starting with TNA first this time. The leader of the Grey Crew sadly talks about how they've had to vacate the tag belts from the NWA due to personal issues with Scott Hall. Yeah, those tag belts weren't even on the pay-per-view. I always miss the one who looks like Elvis.
See you out there, be the one who looks like Elvis.
It's funny, but by this point, most of the guys that had been brought in by Hogan and Bischoff had been labelled as failures. They'd all left TNA. Great hirings, guys. It still seems a bit weird stripping the band of the tag belts, because they've been defending them under the Freebird rules, and EY and Nash are still with the company, so they couldn't have just kept the belts? Whatever. We're doing a tag title tournament to crown the new champions. Speak of the Devils, and Nash and Young are in the opening tournament match. They have a right to be pissed off. They face the men with mohawks, Jesse Neal and Jeff Hardy's stoner friend. Young and Nash attack them before they make it into the ring. It's a very slow and boring match where Eric Young and Jesse Neal wrestle most of it. It's nothing but smacks and one diving elbow drop from Eric Young. When the stoner friend gets the tag, the match improves, because it always does. The friend gets a 2-off, an atomic drop and a spinning heel kick. The friend then drop kicks Nash off the apron and meets Eric on the top rope. He hits a sort of Frankensteiner, but Nash breaks the pin up whilst almost tearing his quad in the process. The ref screams at Nash until Neal hits the Mohawk Spear. They beat Eric Young with the Morgasm, and it's over in just a few minutes. Not very good, but I guess they wanted to give Nash and Eric Young closure. Then it's revealed that there's only 4 teams in this tournament. Ric Flair makes his way out with the Fortune faction. He says he's got a major announcement, but before that can happen, Abyss is having a domestic with his missus. He tells her to go back to Desmond because she won't want to be around him tonight. Back to the Ostrich's ballsack. Ric Flair says he wants to reform the 4 Horsemen, which gets a huge cheer, but when he says it's going to be called Fortune, everybody boos. Wolf seems to be the odd man out here as Flair doesn't consider him a contender. He then remembers that he's there and says he could possibly be the Lex Luger of this group. Flair's attention switches to running down Jay Lethal, which brings him out. Lethal's here to do a very good Ric Flair impersonation. He says it looks like the 4 Horsemen took a dump in the ring and left these guys behind. Flair starts screaming back at him and his face starts swelling up red and he removes his clothes. Lethal does the same thing, which enrages Flair further to the point that they have their famous woo-off. Certainly one of the top 10 TNA moments. It's great until Desmond Wolfe interrupts the promo calling Lethal Tinkerbell and Ghetto Boosie. They have an argument over who's sleeping with Chelsea. They make a match between Wolfe and Lethal. If Wolfe wins, he's in Fortune. If he loses, he's gone. We cut from Flair's swollen face to Lacey Von Erich getting a massage. It was a big improvement. Elsewhere, Mr. Anderson promises that we'll see the real Mr. Anderson in tonight's main event, which is going to decide the number one contender for the heavyweight belt. That's the first 25 minutes of the show, so we'll switch to Raw. Vince McMahon charges out in a miserable mood. He's unhappy because of how Sheamus captured the world title at the Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view. He blames Bret Hart for the way things went down and says that he's a crappy GM. As punishment, he'll be relieving Bret of his duties. Bret, you're fired. For some reason, Vince didn't do his usual "you're fired" here. He kind of said it in a vague, brief manner. Bit of a disappointment. Vince explains that the new GM will be anonymous. Oh no. He tells Michael Cole that he will be the voice of the new general manager. A horrible noise plays and Michael Cole has a mail. The new GM has decided to sign all of the former NXT guys to contracts. No! For me that kills a lot of the intrigue. I liked how they were this huge group of unstoppable uncontracted wrestlers. Before Vince can leave, Sheamus interrupts him. He looks like he's on the verge of tears. Sheamus is apparently unhappy with the way that he won the belt as he was helped by the invading NXT guys. Sheamus acts like he's going to vacate the belt and then he starts giggling. He was just trolling us. Come on, Sheamus. He thanks the NXT guys for their help. This brings out Wiener. He calls Sheamus a human jar of mayonnaise. Cena wants to get even with the NXT guys, but he also wants a title rematch. Sheamus doesn't want to give him it. The horrible noise plays over the speakers again, and Cole has another email to read. The GM has now made a main event of Sheamus vs Cena for the title. There's also going to be a special referee for that match, and it'll be Vince. He does an evil smile, and it ends, and that's the opening of the show. Time to change the channel back to TNA. Back on the Hogan show, Hernandez stumbles out to the ring. He's facing the Samoan submission machine, Samoan Joe. After a start where it looks like Joe might be having trouble, he pulls himself together and batters Hernandez in the corner. The fans chant, "Joe's gonna kill you." Joe tries to smash Hernandez off the apron but runs into a slingshot shoulder tackle. Joe attempts to recover but Hernandez gets him off him. Joe falls out the ring, which distracts the ref. The Blueprint, Matt Boring, sneaks into the ring and smashes Hernandez in the nutsack. Joe hits one suplex and it's over in 2 minutes. Jesus Christ. I know management weren't keen on Hernandez, and the evidence is just clear from every segment that he's had. Just annoys me, that's all. Morgan is chased away by Hernandez and Joe, and then the announcement is made that Morgan will be facing Hernandez in a cage on the next pay-per-view. Wow, I can't believe they're building up a pay-per-view 4 weeks in advance. In the back, AJ Styles meets with Desmond Wolfe. He reminds him that he has to beat Jay Lethal tonight or he's gone. Jeff Hardy's also going to be in the main event match tonight, and Anderson says the best man will win tonight. In the ring now, it's Douglas Williams. He wants to mourn the passing of the X Division. With Williams as champion, the X Division will be about ground and pound, and not high flying. He's facing Max Buck, the future Matt Jackson. He shows off good speed to head scissors Williams out of the ring, but nothing happens, and Williams comes back to hit a Samoan drop, which I am just not okay with. Samoan drop should just be saved for Samoans and fat guys. Williams is neither. Doug shakes his head with happiness. He moves on to hit a running knee in the corner and 3 suplexes in a row. Somehow, the Young Buck kicks out. Douglas can't hit the Tornado DDT as the Young Buck dives off the top into a cutter for a 2. Williams just headbutts him a couple of times, and now he can hit the Tornado DDT, and it's over in 2 minutes. There's going to be some AEW fans dumping their nappies at that one. Williams is a bad loser though, and he puts on a cravat hold, and guess who makes the save? No, it's not Nick Jackson, it's Brian Kendrick. Kendrick chokes out Williams for a while, so I guess this feud is continuing. Kendrick looks like one of the jobber gang members of the Warriors. Back to Raw we go. Okay, it looks like we're getting a rematch from Fatal 4-Way as Evan Bourne walks out looking like the cat that got the cream. Jericho is the opponent. He says Evan is a fly-by-night otter, and if he can't win this match, he's going to retire from WWE. Jericho is aggressive in the early going, but he's not focused, and Evan almost rolls him up twice. We come back from an advert break, and Evan almost rolls him up again. Jericho quickly drop-kicks him twice to knock Evan out of the ring. Y2J can't get a count-out victory as Evan returns and reverses a suplex into yet another close fall. Jericho can't get rolling in this one as Evan hits a spinning heel kick and a jumping knee. Jericho thinks he's got him in the walls, but once again, Bourne counters and hits a DDT. Jericho shuts him down with the big old-school backbreaker for a 2. The big moves continue as Evan jumps at Jericho to hit the Frankensteiner. At this point, Bourne has had about 10 2 counts. Jericho counters Bourne into the walls with Bourne making the ropes. Evan boots him down from the apron and he climbs to the top, but the airborne catches nothing but knees. Jericho immediately hits the code breaker for the 3. Yes, these two have some excellent chemistry, and I like the story of Jericho deliberately putting himself under pressure to get back to the underdog mentality he used to have. Jericho is a bad loser as he kisses Evan's head and shoves him down. Not as long as their pay-per-view match, but still a lot of fun. In the back, Vince is praising the new general manager on the phone. He warns the person on the phone not to involve him in matches in the future. Now a miserable Virgil meets with Ted DiBiase. I thought they'd split up. Ted apologises for embarrassing and attacking Virgil, but he's still fired. Ted is now upgraded and he walks Maurice in. Virgil asks what he's going to do for protection. Ted says he'll go to the drugstore. Extra small. Now Natalya and the miserable Fart Dynasty. They are very sad that Bret Hart isn't the manager anymore. Natalya wants the NXT guy sent to jail. D.H. Smith vows to keep the Hart name going. These 3 people are heading out to the ring now for Natalya to make her Raw singles debut. She's taking on Tamina with the Usos, who's also making her Raw singles debut. Tamina aggressively stomps her down in the corner. She hits a headbutt and smiles with happiness. Natalya wipes the smile off her face with a clothesline. Natalya fights out of a Samoan drop and looks for the sharpshooter, but out come the NXT guys. Wade Barrett says they're here to apologise, but Tyson Kidd won't listen and he dives down on them. Bad move because the NXT guys swarm them with ease. For some reason, David Otunga apologises now. He looks like his haircut has been drawn on. Otunga says they only did what they did because they loved the WWE so much and they wanted in so badly. It turns out that each NXT guy has their own apology. The apology segment goes on for a surprisingly long amount of time. Just like last time they all got to speak, Michael Tarver is the most interesting and he reveals that he used to be homeless and that anyone in this position would have done the same thing. Can't argue with that. Wade Barrett says they all made an agreement in NXT that they would stick together no matter what. The crowd aren't buying it and think they all suck. It's here that Barrett names the group the Nexus for the first time. He's also getting a pay-per-view title shot at some point. He threatens Sheamus and says he's only champion because of them. Barrett vows he's gonna be the WWE champion. Some weird, unfitting music plays and it ends. Very interesting stuff. Let's switch back to TNA. Back in Tits and Asses, they're desperately trying to get us to buy action figures. AJ points out that he doesn't have that beard anymore. Way to sell us on your figure, AJ. Angelina Love is in the ring. She's not been seen for a while because she's been on the shelf for 6 weeks. She doesn't want to waste any more time and she plans on picking through the beautiful people until she's the Knockout champion once again. Tonight she will face Knockout's tag team champion, Lacey Von Erich. Lacey falls into the ring and Angelina smacks her out straight away. She knees Lacey in the gut a couple of times and dumps her to the mat. Randomly, Lacey flips over Angelina from the corner and hits a drop toe hold. That just angers Angelina. Lacey tries 10 punches in the corner. Bad decision because Angelina powerbombs her. Love fetches a steel chair and she DDTs Lacey into it. The match is thrown out for DQ, but Angelina doesn't care. She just wants to kill all the beautiful people. In the back, Jay Lethal gets a pep talk from the Hulkster. Hogan says he's seen something in Lethal that he hasn't seen in a very long time. He looks bored. Jeff Hardy has an interview next. He hopes to win the match tonight so he can face RVD. Mr. Anderson interrupts the interview and says management are stirring the pot, but it won't matter because they're best friends. Now it's another tag tournament match. The Dudley boys will be facing Beer Money. The Dudleys hit the first big move on Rude with a side slam leg drop combination. Ray gets distracted by the crowd and Beer Money are able to hit them with a big back body drop. The men with mohawks arrive at the commentary desk because they're feuding with Bubba Ray and will face the winners of this match. The Dudleys are dominating here and they give Rude a doomsday device. Devon wants to put Rude away with a 3D, but Bubba Ray has stormed up the ramp to see the men with mohawks. The ref is distracted and the ref misses Storm's spray and beer, and Beer Money win with a roll-up. Another 3-minute match. In the back, Desmond Wolfe is threatening his valet Chelsea. He tells her she has a chance to redeem herself tonight, perhaps foreshadowing the outcome of this match. Wolfe doesn't get an entrance as he faces Jay Lethal. Wolfe straight away throws Lethal off the top to the outside, but he's a moron and he continues arguing with Chelsea. Just like last week, Tommy Dreamer appears in the crowd. Wolfe looks so stupid here. It's supposed to be an important match, but he can't stop arguing with his valet. Wolfe hits a hammerlock and goes back to arguing. She decides to leave, but falls over on the ramp as Wolfe is chasing. Lethal follows him and throws him back into the ring. Lethal hits a nice handspring back elbow and a throw into a net breaker, and it's over just like that. Another 2-minute match. It's not all bad though, because the rise of Jay Lethal continues. Wolfe is a bad loser and he brings Lethal back to the ring for punishment. Flair joins him and smacks him in the nutsack. Hulk Hogan can take no more of this. Everyone just runs away from the almighty Hulkster. Hogan gets a mic and credits TNA as being on fire because of Jay Lethal. He's here to make a big announcement and we need the Nature Boy for this. And that will be Flair versus Lethal on the next pay-per-view. Over to Raw we go. John Morrison is making his way out, but he has a random giant with him called Eli Cottonwood. This is his NXT rookie. Ted DiBiase is supposed to be facing him, but says he has better things to do. Instead, he's found a replacement in Zack Ryder, who has his NXT rookie Titus O'Neil with him. The King desperately tries to explain that these rookies are not the same as the Nexus guys. Ryder quickly stops the springboard by throwing Morrison to the mat. Ryder decapitates him on the ropes for a 2. Zack Ryder is in control for a bit, but he's doing nothing interesting until Morrison kicks him. Ryder's Hurricanrana has turned into a Morrison powerbomb, and John wins for Starship Pain. Not as good as you might have expected. In the back, Cena is miserably stomping around. Matthews asks him about the Nexus apologising to him. Cena doesn't accept their apology because they put him in a stretcher. Vince says he's going to ensure that the best man will win the main event tonight. Ugh, here comes the great Carly and Eve. Primo and Alicia Fox will be the opponents. This rip-off Nelly is getting hot in here music is giving me a sore hawkhead. Primo looks like her stylist or something. The men start, but Primo is scared and tags Alicia. She's very cocky since taking Eve's title. Eve does a nice roll over her back into a dropkick, but Fox drop toe holds her into the ropes. They brawl for a while until Fox hits a jumping knee to the jaw. Eve fights back with a kick, and then she climbs to the top and she lands her moonsault. Primo stops that from being a 3. Eve slaps him, and here comes the great Carly. Primo can't do anything as Alicia Fox dumps in her thong with fear and leaves. Carly hits the Punjabi plunge and it's over. Carly's music is a low-key banger. Let's see what the final part of TNA has in store for us. Back on the final part of TNA, they desperately tell us the new top 10 heavyweight rankings. The main event tonight will determine the top 3. In the ring, a wild slapnut appears.
Jeff Jarrett.
He's not messing about, he calls out the Stinger Steve Borden. Sting recently beat Jeff up so badly that he was taken off the show. He asks for Sting to remove his glasses so Slappy can stare into his big brown eyes. Jeff says when he brought Sting into TNA they were working together as great friends, but now Sting seems to be a bit miserable. Jarrett says Sting's made a big mistake leaving him standing. Sting isn't really sweating it and he gives Jeff a beautiful smile. Jarrett and Sting start talking in riddles, just like they always do. It sounds like they're talking about Bischoff and Hogan. Jarrett says that Hogan and Bischoff have his full trust and he'll be fighting for them. What a civilised conversation that was, not usually how it goes down. Just the main event left. It's a triple threat to decide the number one contender. Mr. Anderson versus The Abyss versus Jeff Hardy. The enigmatic assholes work together on the monster. They hit a bunch of double team moves and the suplex gets a 2 count. Hardy and Anderson... they have some tension over who's getting the pin and they pay for that with a double Abyss clothesline. Hardy comes back with a whisper in the wind. He boots Abyss out the ring and looks to dive. Anderson comically rises up behind him, but he shows how much he's changed when he attacks Abyss instead. Hardy now does a dive. Suddenly a bell rings and the ref has counted all 3 men out. Abyss is a bad loser and he strikes both men down. He gets them both back in the ring only to throw Hardy straight out the ring. What a waste of energy that was. Abyss hits a shock treatment backbreaker to Anderson. Something seems to have changed with Abyss. The monster starts using his kendo stick on Jeff. He tips glass shards in the ring and beats up on Mr. Anderson too. He hits Anderson with a black hole slam into the glass. This officially marks the end to the horrible Abyssmania gimmick, as the monster would be moving on to have a pretty good few months of his career as a monster heel. Jeff and Abyss are still fighting on the ramp. Abyss gives Hardy a pretty brutal looking chokeslam off the stage. It didn't have its usual cardboard appearance whenever TNA did these spots, so this one was nice. The Hulkster Hogan marches out demanding to know what Abyss is doing. Abyss points the finger and screams "you," and the show ends. My final thoughts on TNA after the last part of Raw. Randy Orton miserably slides out to the ring for a promo. He's glad the NXT guys all have contracts now because he wants to beat them up. He says if Wade Barrett becomes champion, he'll take the belt from him. He's randomly interrupted by The Miz, who gets a huge crowd cheer. The Miz looks like he's been burnt on a sunbed. The Miz is sick of seeing Randy Orton in the main event. He says nobody has ever held the US title and the WWE title at the same time and he wants to change that. The Miz believes that he's front of the queue now. Orton beats him up and The Miz runs away from an RKO. Edge rushes the ring and spears Orton. What a shame, I was on board with The Miz for a second there. Just the main event then. Vince McMahon will referee a match between John Cena and the Great White Lobster Head. Thinking about it, isn't this the second time that Sheamus has taken a title off of Cena in a fluky way? Who remembers that awkward table finish in 2009? Yeah, Sheamus really needs to win this match here because once again, he looks like a fluky champion. Unlike the other matches on this show, this one's going to get some time. Once again, loud dueling chants of "Let's go Cena" and "Cena sucks." This is a very slow match, and I think they're trying to tell a story that Cena is still injured from the NXT attacks, and therefore he's not as effective as usual. Sheamus escapes an attitude adjustment and hits a power slam for a 2. He's started to turn red with anger. Sheamus misses a bro kick, which gives Cena an opening. Cena hits the powerbomb on the 5-knuckle shuffle. It looks like it's almost over until Sheamus hits the backbreaker. Cena suddenly reverses a Celtic cross into the STF. He doesn't have to hold on for long because Sheamus makes the ropes. The match heads out the ring where Sheamus sends Cena into the steps. Cena's still kicking out, much to the disbelief of Sheamus. Sheamus sends him into the steps again, and in the ring he hits a big boot. Suddenly, the NXT guys charge out and they chase Sheamus through the crowd, so they turn their attention to Cena. They throw him across the announce table and Ryback tips the table on top of him. Second show in a row that has no commentary for the last few minutes because the commentators have run away. The Nexus seem pretty happy with their work tonight. McMahon has a mic. He invites the Nexus into the ring. Vince takes partial responsibility for the actions of the Nexus, further diluting this angle. I don't want them to be on Vince's side. They should be doing this for themselves. Vince suddenly looks really confused and goes silent. They're all frowning at him. The crowd are loudly chanting Daniel Bryan. The guys surround Vince. Yes, hit him you dorks. They do it. Okay, this angle just got better. They aren't actually aligned with Vince, thank God. Ryback clotheslines Vince, Wade Barrett hits Disgraceland and Gabriel hits the 450 and they all leave. Great ending to the show. There was some good wrestling on this show, but also a hot angle to end on. Now my full thoughts. TNA is just spinning its wheels. There's nothing really intriguing or must-watch on the show. The stuff with Abyss is vaguely interesting, seeing him turn against Hulkamania, but this is not a new concept. Jay Lethal is the hottest man on the show right now, and there's not really much else to get excited for. Raw is currently outperforming them in most ways. The Nexus angle is hot. I'm interested in what Jericho is doing, and his matches are good. The world title picture seems to be well open with several potential challengers. Also, no guest host. I did used to think TNA had the better show, but since Nexus has shown up, it's swung in the WWE's favour. even if I don't agree with them getting contracts straight away. So WWE wins not just the pay-per-view battle, but also Raw beats TNA. I never thought I'd say that, now I'm off to make your girl's day.